Hi, my name's Dave Whipple and you're watching Bush Radical. In this video, we're going to take a 1940s Skil saw and do the best we can to bring it back to a usable, working condition. Stay with me. Now for 15 years, my wife and I and our 2 kids lived in Alaska year-round. Over the last 5 years, we've been splitting our time between our property in Michigan and our property in Alaska. And living in 2 different places, you kind of end up accumulating 2 sets of everything, whether you want to or not. I have 2 good Skil saws, and they're both in Alaska. But at a friend of mine's buy and sell junk store, I found this beauty for $20. They just simply don't make them like this anymore. Not only that, but this saw came with its original box. Place to put the cord. There's a pocket down here where you put your blades in and it slides into a clip spot. Now this saw might be a dinosaur, but this thing was built to last. I don't even know how old this thing is. 60, 70 years old? 80 maybe? I mean, it is old. These worm drive saws, they're very simple. They've got a big giant cog gear in here and then they've got a worm gear. They're basically like a tuning machine on a guitar. Now, regardless of how ancient this saw is, it still works. It fires right up and it runs. But this saw, being so stupid old, the gear lube in it is pretty much like glue. It's like roofing tar. That's one of the reasons why this thing, even though it turns, it doesn't sound happy. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna flush out that oil reservoir and we're gonna top it off with the best stuff we got, which is actually probably bar and chain lubricant. Something that's extremely heavy, more heavy than just regular 80-90. Now the other problem with this saw is actually worse than the first one. Now you can have a saw that's got terrible old oil in it. It's just gonna make the saw run very slow. It's gonna wear the gears. Eventually it might destroy the saw, but this problem is worse. Check out this blade guard. That does not return quickly. That blade guard is supposed to snap back around the blade. I have a cousin that cut his leg severely, right across his lap, with a saw like this back in the 80s. You want that blade guard to snap right back as soon as it's done. And this one is just garbage. So let's tear this saw apart piece by piece. We'll clean everything out with an air chuck. We'll wash anything with a solvent that needs to be cleaned up and rid of 100-year-old grease. And then we're going to put fresh lube in the gear case. And I'll have a saw in Michigan and 2 saws in Alaska, and all 3 of them will work. Hopefully. First, let's remove this blade. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go clockwise, as if you were tightening it. All these worm drive Skil saws, they have reverse thread on the bolt that holds the blade. I'm going to take off the table right now too. Hopefully, no part of this saw is really, no, it doesn't look like anything's froze at all. Huh. Oh, wow. Just take a little block of wood here so I don't damage anything. Look at this. 100 years of sawdust. Well, now that it's fairly clean, we'll just give it a little swabbing with some PB Blaster. I hate the smell of this stuff, but boy, it does work. Yeah, it won't take much of that. It'll be, yeah, just needs a little love. Now let's take this oil nut off here and see what we're dealing with. You can tell just from this cap, whatever's in there is no longer oil, it's more grease. Now what I've got here, I got a funnel. Just gonna throw that funnel right in the top. I also have a couple cups of fuel oil here. It came out of the furnace in the basement. It's just home heating oil. It's basically diesel fuel. And we're going to use this to clean this gearbox out. We're just going to pour it in and then we're going to fire the saw up and let its own power do all the scrubbing. I'm going to take this saw and just run it for a couple, 3 minutes with this lube in there and then dump it out. Okay, let's empty that thing out and see what it looks like. Now for this kind of a job, I like to use an ice cream pail. Reason being is I seem to always have a bunch of them around. Just saying. Wow. pretty gross. We'll just run a few more tanks of oil through this thing until it kind of isn't so disgusting. I hate the smell of diesel fuel. Well, honestly, I don't really see an improvement. Once this saw is cleaned out, it's probably going to be the first time in 70 years, probably, that anybody's taken the time to do anything with it. Here we go. Still looks like sludge to me. This is starting to look like the blues. First verse is the same as the second, same as the third. Tighten that down. It's just going to leak otherwise. I can look in there and I'm starting to see like exposed metal areas that aren't covered in tar. And now when I started cleaning this saw, it was like poop. And when you take your finger off the trigger, it'd be like now it calms down slowly. I can't imagine how hard it was for those gears to turn in the lubrication that was actually in that gearbox. Wow, that's not bad. Put our plug back on. This guy's been cleaned up a little bit, so it should be a little better. Let's see how it sounds now with real lube in it. Much more happier. One last go around with the air hose. I wouldn't be a darn bit surprised if this blade came with this saw, because it's a Skil Saw brand blade. It was made in Chicago, which I don't know the last time they made anything in Chicago. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's probably a very, very old blade. Finish the last couple little things and let's take this saw and cut something. Well, now we've done the work. Let's see how it cuts. Well, the blade's not the greatest. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and watching this little restoration video where we're kind of fixing up an old Skil Saw. Don't forget, if you like this channel, hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell right next to it so you can get updates when I post videos, which I try to do quite often. My name's Dave Whipple and you've been watching Bush Radical. Be radical, eh? See you soon.